I want to bring someone in now who believes that that is not a concern and that Hegseth is the right guy. Former Minnesota Senator Norm Coleman. He introduced Hegseth today, sat next to him throughout the hearing. Senator, it's good to have you. Thank you.
It's great to be on the show. And Chris, can I kind of jump in and take issue on two issues? One, I'm not the man that saved the nomination. Pete Hegseth saved it. I sat with him on over 50 meetings with senators. And I have to tell you, in every one of those meetings, by the way, they ask the questions, the hard questions that you want asked. They want to know about nuclear capacity, nuclear triad. They want to know about Navy shipbuilding capacity. But in every one of them, he came out stronger than when he walked in. I mean, Joni Ernst was tough, tough, tough. And he had a series of meetings with her. And I understand that she said she's going to, support his candidacy confirmation today. But he went out there and met with those senators, and they saw that he's there for the right reason. Let me just say one other thing. The issue about culture, it's not about culture. It's not about fight, fight, fight versus woke, woke, woke. The issue of culture and DEI goes to recruitment, the issue you talked about. So the Air Force Academy says, the directive, you shouldn't use the phrase mom and dads until addressing your parents. Are you going to send if you want your kid to be a warfighter, is that where you're going to tell them to go? So the whole issue of recruitment is directly impacted by this incredible push that the Biden administration made on equity, on DEI. And the other piece that goes to is the kind of perception of lethality. What Hegseth talked about a lot today was lethality. We're going to project lethality. That's the focus.
Right.
President Trump said, I want someone, dirt on his boots, kicked indoors. I want to focus on the warfighter and lethality. And he made that case. He is a warfighter, and the warfighters support him. And so it's not just about, a focus on culture for culture's sake. It's a focus on equity and DEI so that we don't have woke killing our recruitment and projecting a vision to our enemy that somehow there is this weak military, which, by the way, was reflected in the disaster in Afghanistan, reflected in Putin moving into the Ukraine, reflected in October 7th. And so all those things are a reflection of American weakness. And so what you heard today was somebody says, I am a warfighter. The president wants a warfighter to lead this. And just one other thought, I'm kind of spitting it out. It's not an issue, by the way, of Pete Hegseth, can you run, at the largest, business in the world? Pete Hegseth's job is he doesn't have to manage the building. He has to lead the people who manage the building. And I think he demonstrated that today. But more important, he demonstrated in the meetings with those senators who, in the end, I think will support him, and he's going to get confirmed.
So, look, we can disagree about how important woke or not woke is to the security of this country, but that's not for me to decide anyway. It's for the senators to measure and to give their votes. And then, the president has made his pick. Either he passes or he doesn't. What I want is two pieces of insight from you. First, if they were asking those tough questions in the meetings that he had, where were they today? How do you explain how those same senators talked about things that were so much more narrow and arguably less important than what you said was discussed in closed meetings?
Well, I think you may have missed it, for instance, on Sheehy. Yeah, Sheehy asked about kind of the caliber of a round in a certain piece of military equipment, the weight of a rucksack.
Yeah, he also asked how many push-ups he could do. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, what was that today?
Yeah. Well, but what he's saying is that this guy understands what the guy who's carrying the rucksack. He knows that guy.
No, I got it, Norm. What I'm saying is,
and so
I'm saying something different. He also asked him how many push-ups you can do and how many genders there are. That's not what we need to know from someone who's going to be Secretary of Defense. You and I both know it. How do you explain the disconnect between what you said you heard in this closed meetings and what they were doing today?
I don't see the disconnect. That's where we disagree. Fisher asked about the nuclear triad. Brown's asked about Chinese intercepting communications. Wicker had a whole range of other issues. So, yeah, the big news and what you're going to see is kind of the exchanges on wokeness. But even that, as I said before, really has a strategic purpose. So you have 7 minutes, Chris, and so what are you going to go into? What depth are you going to go into? But again, Pete Hegseth saved his nomination when he met with those senators, and they saw the intellect, they saw the character, they saw him having the capacity to lead and to really to kind of reshape the image of our military,
so
of
Norm,
our Defense Department, which needs I said you need somebody out of the box is broken. He's an out-of-the-box candidate. Yeah, we got to get out of the box.
I get the interest in disruption. I do. And obviously it's very saleable to the American people. I get it. To the critic, who says this guy doesn't check any of the boxes that we've seen in any other Secretary of Defense in the modern era, as a management capability or as someone who's demonstrated an understanding of what makes the military do what it has to do at that level. What do you say?
I say, one, he has the intellect, and the people saw that both in the meetings with him and even if you listen to him today. And the second thing is what we have hasn't worked. And because it hasn't worked, okay, sometimes you got to get a disruptor. You said you understand disruption. Pete is going to be a disruptor. And that is what we need in the world in which we're living. And so I think he brings, as I said, what you need is the ability not to manage the building, but to manage the people who are managing the building. There's no question that he can do that. And I think he brings that warfighter mentality that the president wants to project in our Department of Defense.
How do you have no question when he's never done anything like it?
Well, I think he's done like it. He's been in war. He's been in combat. He's dedicated his life to leading, veterans. I think, again, if you want the standard issue, you got that, with the current secretary. And when he was gone for 3 days, nobody noticed. Nobody knew. If Pete Hegseth is gone for 3 days, you're going to know it. So I think the president is looking for a different quality. He brings the quality. And I got to say again, sheer intellect. This is, the Harvard-Princeton thing wasn't because of any special status. This is a really smart guy who kind of knows what he needs to do, and that warfight, this whole thing is going to be about changing the image, what projection of the Department of Defense, focus on one thing, and that one thing is lethality, that one thing is the warfighter, that one thing is for our enemy to be scared, that if they invade Taiwan or something, they're going to pay a price because we got tough leadership at the top of the Pentagon.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.